method is different and research methodology is different. Here, the research method means what? It is nothing but the way to do something.
सीजन आता झाड बघणे मोठं लावून ठेवलेलं असते डेरावर पाणी भरून आपलं 4 भाकरी खायचं तिथे 2 खाणे थंड पाणी पिऊन झोपून आराम दिवस मावळायचे.
Sir, am I audible?
नमस्कार.
Audible.
करा.
Mane sir, am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are audible,
Okay,
sir.
So friends, method means the way to do something. In each and every field, we define some methods. In the research also, there are some methods to do the research. So here, method is a small part. What is methodology? Methodology means a science or philosophy. It is a very complex area. The research methodology includes all types of standard, the process, the systematic way for each and everything. Here, all the steps to complete the study becomes the part of research methodology. How to solve a particular problem, a specific topic comes under research methodology. So simply we can say research method is the method to do something only, and research methodology includes that type of activity which includes the standard, the scientific approach, the systematic way, and a scientifically designed process for study. But most important thing again related to research is it belongs to the academic activity. Friends, one of the philosopher, Dr. Odi, says that research includes the problem, the formulation of hypotheses, and the different types of stages such as the collection of data, the evaluation of data, making decision, finding conclusion, and all types of other activities up to come to the conclusion. So these all are the part of academic activities. So he says the research is an academic activity. All the process which we follows for completion of research study are the part of academic activities.
Hello.
It is one of the academic activity. Friends, we undertake research study, but what are the intention behind these all types of efforts which we takes to complete the study? Some objectives I put it in front of you behind the completion of research. The most important is to get new idea, new knowledge. In your field of law, there is so many aspects are there. So many things over which you can find out something new. What should be done? What was the past and what will be the future? Again, to study the characteristics of particular individual, particular situation, particular society, particular institution, one may undertake the research studies. In the subject of law, one criminal can be studied, the group of person can be studied, and also the impact of particular law and regulation over the society can be studied. Again, the intention behind the research study may be to determine the frequency with which something occurs, or we can say which it is associated with the something else. Again, to test the designed hypothesis, the research study can be undertaken to know the relationship between the variables. So, friend, these may be some of the intention or objective behind the taking of research studies. What may be the criteria of a good research? Because we always say that friends, one must take the good research studies, one must find the appropriate solution. These all things, how it can be done. So we can follow some of the criteria to complete the good research study.
हॅलो. बाकीचे विद्यार्थ्यांनी म्यूट करावे. तुमचे माइक्स म्यूट करणं गरजेचं आहे. प्लीज. राहुल आहे तू? राहुल. रोडिया सर, आवाज येतोय माझा? I'm audible, sir.
Yes, sir. आवाज येत नाही सर.
हा, एक मिनिट. काय त्याचं रोडिया सर.
सर त्यांचं म्यूट वर आहे माईक सर.
सर आवाज येत नाही.
हो बेटा, 2 मिनिट. काहीतरी टेक्निकल प्रॉब्लेम असेल सरांचा. मी कॉन्टॅक्ट करण्याचा प्रयत्न करतोय सोबत.
हो कांबळे, जाऊ तुम्ही. हा, बिस्ती बिस्ती खावा तुम्ही. हा, एकच.
हॅलो सर.
हा रोडिया सर, आवाज येतोय आता? ओके. आता आवाज येतोय. आवाज गेला होता, म्यूट झाला होता का तुम्ही? रोडिया सर.
Yes sir.
म्यूट
Am I
झाला
audible
होता का?
now
ओके.
sir?
हा, नाव विजिबल सर, also audible.
Okay sir.
You are audible.
So friends, again your findings must be presented without any ambiguity, and at last the conclusion must be justified, and it must reflect the experience of researcher from all the types of findings and conclusion as well as the recommendation. Before to start any research study, we must know what are the types of research. we can say the research studies can be bifurcated into some of types, and most important one is the descriptive research. What is the descriptive research means? When the research study includes that type of studies, they are based on surveys or fact findings, or they are related to somewhat inquiries. That studies can be said as the descriptive research. The main characteristic of this method is that the researcher has no control over the variables. He can only report what had happened or what is happening. So friends, the descriptive research is nothing but that type of research study which is based on survey and the researcher not having any type of control over the variables. Then the another type is the analytical research. As the name is enough to give the idea about the analytical research. This type of studies totally uses the fact or information which is already available. And this type of study analyzes to make a critical evaluation of the collected material. If your study is related to the making critical research,
आवाज बंद झाला सर.
ठीक आहे, होत आहे, जैन होत आहेत सर. ओके, टेक्निकल प्रॉब्लेम.
सर मला तिकडूनच कोणी वाटतं सर.
हा
माने
सर.
सर.
हा सर.
आपल्याकडूनच म्यूट होतं वाटतं सर. माझ्याकडून तर चालू आहे सर.
हो हो सर. सर कंटिन्यू करा. हो हो येतोय सर आवाज इन बिटवीन मध्ये.
आवाज येतोय सर?
हो हो सर.
ओके सर. ओके सर. The other type of research is the applied research. What is applied research? The another name of this research study is the action research. When the aim of any study is to find the solution of a particular problem and to make the immediate application over the finded part, and over the conclusion, it says the application oriented research, action oriented research, and the applied research. So many times we undertake the research studies related to the problems in front of society, in front of industry, in front of any organization, or in front of any government. That type of study is known as the applied research. What is the fundamental research? When the research study having intention is to find out something new, it is related to the basic part, to generalize any particular idea with the formulation of any type of theory or conceptual clarity is there. That type of study is known as the fundamental study, basic studies. So here the two types of studies, applied research and fundamental research. The another type of research studies are qualitative research and quantitative research. The name is itself enough to give the further clarification of these two types of studies. What is quantitative research? This type of study is totally based on that type of data which can be calculated, which can be computed, and the quantity or in amount manner it can be presented. What is the another study? Qualitative research. When the research study is based on qualitative parameters, qualitative attributes, such as it may include the quality, it may include the different types of qualitative attributes such as the gender, the intellectuality, the honesty, and so on. When your research study includes such type of qualitative attributes, it's known as qualitative research. Manis sir, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Audible, sir. Okay.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Then the next study is the conceptual research and the empirical research. What is the conceptual research? That type of research which is related to the some type of abstract or ideas or theories. When the conceptual clarity related study is there, it's known as the conceptual research. The another type of research is the empirical research. When your study or your database is related to the coming up with conclusion from your experiment, that type of study is known as experimental based study or empirical research. Friends, there may be some other types of research studies also. They are one-time research. When you undertake the research study for just single time to make evaluation of the particular idea, one-time research known for that study. Many time research, when the topic is like that, which having the change time to time, if your study is related to the social system, the technological changes, many times the researcher can undertake that study to know the change. Many time research. Field study. When the study is related to visit a particular field area and to find something, it's known as the field study. Laboratory research, particularly the science technology based research. When the research study is undertaken into a particular laboratory to find out what happens, known as the laboratory research. Clinical or diagnostic research studies. When the researcher has any type of intention to make diagnosis of particular problem, to know the cause behind the particular problem, that type of study known as the diagnostic research studies. Conclusion oriented or decision oriented studies. When the researcher undertakes that type of study which having intention to find some conclusion or to take some particular decision on the basis of research findings, because of this particular intention, the study is known as the conclusion oriented studies. Friends, I clarified this thing previously. Again, I'm going to make clarification that research method is different and research methodology is different. We have discussed in short over this part. Research means the performing research operation, and the methodology includes all the things, all the techniques to complete the research study systematically and scientifically. Now the research process, where the research process starts and where it ends. In the research study, the research process starts from the formulation of research problem. It is the first stage. In this stage, the researcher, as per his area of interest or as per the situation, he defines the problems and he writes the problem in a systematic manner known as the formulation of research problem. The next stage of the research study is the literature survey. After drafting the problem, as per the problem, he collect out the research study which is already happened. It may be published in form of books, in form of journals, newspapers, and the other published material. He collect all the literature related to his study. He read out and find out the exact situation related to his study topic. The next stage is to develop your hypothesis. After getting idea from the literature survey, the researcher, on the basis of literature review, develops some friends. Step is to prepare your research design. That how I am going to complete the study, how the data will be collected, how the samples will be designed, how the analysis will be done, and how the fact will find it out, known as the research design. Then the researcher select the sample. How to select the sample? We are going to study in the coming slides. But the process at this stage is to select the sample. After sample selection, he turned towards the collection of data. There are so many alternatives are available to collect the data. The researcher select the particular method of data collection which is most suitable to his objectives. Then the analysis and interpretation of data. Here the part is related to the use of different types of tools and techniques for data analysis. He at last test the hypothesis and write his report related to his particular study topic. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Audible. Very much. Yes, sir.
Again, in short, we can give numbers to these all research steps known as the process to complete the research study. The first stage may be to define the research problem. The second is to literature review. Third is the formulation of hypothesis. The fourth is making research designing. The fourth is the collection of data. The sixth is the hypothesis and data analysis. The seventh is the interpretation and writing of report. Friends, here the most important question in front of each and every researcher is that what is a research problem? So in each and every area of study, there are so many problems. So the problem means what? Problem means the facing issues or facing questions. In your field of law, there are so many facing issues. You know it from your previous studies, you come to know that what are the challenges, what are the questions, what are the problems in our area. So from these problems, there may be some particular area of interest you have, and from that particular area of interest, you can select your particular problem, maybe say as research question. The research problem may be the one type of difficulty or need which a researcher knows from his past studies. He come to know from his theoretical studies, from the practical studies, and from the other directions. And that particular difficulty or need is known as the research problem, for which the solution must be there, and the researcher wants to take efforts to find the solution. In your law studies, there may be these type of difficulties or need may be there. You know it, and from that particular point of view, you can design your research topic. Now, the next is how do we know we have a research problem? Simply, we can do these all type of activities to know the research problem. For example, if our business is there, researcher wants to undertake one research problem. He look out one business and he focused over the customer's complaint, the conversation with the company and the employees. He again may pay focus over the observation of inappropriate behavior or condition in that particular firm. He may study out the deviation from the business plan, the plan which business have actually designed, and the implementation what is going on, and the variation between these two heads maybe the research question. And again, he may focus over the success of firm and their the competitors. What is the reason behind the success of a particular firm or failure of a firm? The company's records, their reports, their published material, these all things may be taken into consideration. Mane sir, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Audible now.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
आवाज येत नाही सर.
रोडिया सर. हॅलो. हॅलो.
हा सर, ऑडिएबल झाले पण आवाज येत नाही आता.
हां हां, तेच तेच. बोल. रोडिया सर. हॅलो.
Hello, Mane sir.
हा, येस सर,
आता
यू आर
हां
ऑडिएबल.
सर, हां सर. आवाज येतोय. बोला ना सर.
Okay, sir. So, friends, by this way, sir, screen is visible.
नो
नो
सर,
सर.
स्क्रीन इज नॉट
नो
विजिबल.
नो नो.
Okay, sir.
नाही नाही.
Is it visible now, sir?
Yet not, sir.
येत नॉट सर.
Is it visible now, sir?
नो सर.
Okay, sir. Friends, again, what may be the criteria for good research problem?
हा,
The
नाव येस सर,
criteria
विजिबल.
we can apply for the good research
Visible,
problem
sir.
as
हा,
the
विजिबल सर.
problem must be clear and unambiguous. Whatever problem you are going to take for the research study, it must be clear and simple one. Then the problem must be empirical one. It must be implemented to take experiment and experience. It must give the opportunity to the researcher like this. Your problem must be empirical one. The problem must be verifiable one. One must have the scope to make verification or verify the research study again and again. It must be interesting one. Without having any type of particular interest, no one will complete the research study. So the research problem must be interested one. It must be new, novel and original one. Otherwise, there will be no any type of benefit from the research study. Then the researcher must available the guidance of someone senior one. Under that particular guidance, the researcher can complete his research study. So these are some of the criteria for a good research problem. Friends, after defining your research problem, the next stage is the review of literature. It is the most important stage in the research study. Over this review of literature, most of the success of your research totally depends. What is literature review? It is nothing but the documentation of the comprehensive review of the published and unpublished work over your particular study topic. The main intention of the literature review is to find out the problems that are already investigated or studied by someone else. To get the background history of any topic, we undertake this step, that is the review of literature. This step gives us lot of strength to complete our studies systematically and effectively. So each and every researcher has to give lot of time for the literature review. He has to read out lot of available material over his study topic to get the idea of what happened over the particular study topic, and over that particular background he may design or define that what should be in future. What is the purpose of your literature review? The literature review gives you the background of your study topic, what already happened, who studied which area, and what was his outcome. To define the hypothesis, this information may support you. The literature review also helps to make the potential relationship between the two variables or the researchable hypothesis. Friends, the research review also make the particular benefit to the researcher to design his research methodology and also to know the techniques of analysis of collected data. The literature review may help the researcher to know the sources to find the data and also to write a good report after completion of the research study. So each and everyone have to give a lot of time for this particular literature review. Maybe the question of researcher that how to complete the literature survey. So no doubt, friend, here are some of the points which may help you to complete your literature survey. First one is to identify your particular problem. Then the next is to identify the available relevant resources or sources which you have over your study topic. Then next is to extract and record the relevant information related to your area of research and write up the literature review in brief. For example, you studied a book over a particular criminal studies. Then you have to write in a summary manner what was the topic of researcher and what he concluded. This particular review will give you idea about the study topic and about the findings. What may be the sources of literature, how to get literature, and how to write the literature review. So here are some of the sources of literature: the books, the journals, the electronic database, the bibliographic database, the abstract database, the full text database, the different types of government and industrial reports. The internet is one of the open source to get the different types of literature. And the next is the research studies, the dissertation, thesis, reports, and the other published and unpublished matter may be there available for the research studies as a source of literature. Manesh sir, am I audible properly?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, the next are some of the points that the researcher must keep in his mind while making the literature review. First of all, read out the relevant literature only. So many available literature may be in your library, maybe in the other sources. You do not have to pay attention over these all literature. Sort out the relevant material and read out it very carefully. Then friends, the next and most important point is refer the original works only. There may be so many material available and may have the different types of copy paste and other collection of irrelevant material system may be there. So do not pay attention over these all type of wasted literatures. only find out the original works and give time to read out all these original works very systematically. Then friends, read out the material with comprehension. Read out the material in time and at last make the index of literature which you have studied out and also pointed out the highlights of that research study, which may help you to complete your study effectively. Now, the question may be in front of researcher that what is hypothesis? So many times, the hypothesis word creates confusion in the minds of researcher and it creates tension while undertaking the research studies. But don't worry, friends. Here, the hypothesis is to give you support for your research study and not to create tension in the research study. What is a hypothesis? It means nothing but it is an assumption about the relation about variables. It is one type of prediction you have given before starting the research study on the basis of your literature review. What you come to know, you have defined in a simple manner known as an assumption. The hypothesis can be designed very logically, systematically to know the relationship between the study two or many variables. So in short, we can say the hypothesis is the part of research and it is nothing but a simple assumption. Friend, here maybe the confusing point that is variable. What is variable? So simply we can say anything that can change or vary known as the variable. As the income of a person changes, it is a variable. As agricultural production changes, it is a variable. As rainfall changes, it is a variable. Here, the variable are of two types. One is dependent variable and another one is the independent variable. The rainfall and agricultural production, if we take into consideration, rainfall is independent variable and the agricultural production is the dependent variable. Because as the rainfall increases, the agricultural production itself increases because it totally depends on the rainfall. So the variable are two types. One is the dependent variable, another one is the independent variable. For the growth and for the increase or decrease, whatever it may be, that type of variable which is depend on the another variable known as the dependent variable, and which type of variable which having its own controlling own identity known as the independent variable. And here hypothesis, again we discussed in a simple manner that hypothesis is nothing but a predictive statement, a one type of assumption designed by the researcher before starting his research studies. The hypothesis is nothing but the tentative solution, tentative guess or tentative statement about the prediction what will happen after completion of study. So on the basis of literature review, you can simply design the hypothesis and complete your research study on a right track. What are the characteristics of hypothesis? Friends, the hypothesis having the characteristics, first one is the conceptual clarity. Your hypothesis must be simple and clear one. Then your hypothesis must be related to your study area. Study scope and limitation must be taken into consideration while designing hypothesis. The testability expectancy must have in hypothesis, otherwise it may not be tested and it may not be related to know the relationship between the two variables of your study. How to get idea about the hypothesis? What may be the sources of hypothesis? Friends, here the hypothesis can be designed on the basis of your discussion with your colleagues, with the expert, with the different types of sources from which you have collected the study material for you. These all may provide you a lot of information to design some of the statements known as the hypothesis. Friends, the review of literature and the different types of collection of studies, dissertation, thesis, books, journals, newspaper information may be the sources for hypothesis. What are the types of hypothesis? Friends, on the basis of its name, we can simply say which type of hypothesis is it. Descriptive hypothesis is the first type. When the hypothesis gives information in a descriptive manner, it makes the description of characteristics in form of size, distribution, and the others. It known as the descriptive hypothesis. For example, simply we can say the public enterprises are more amenable for centralized planning. Here, in a descriptive manner, we may define all these things, how the public enterprises are more amenable for the centralized planning. The next type is the relational hypothesis. The name itself gives the idea about relationship. When the assumption that describes the relationship between the studied variables, the two variables, the relationship suggests itself the relationship may be the positive, maybe the negative, maybe the causal, or maybe the in another form. That type of relational situation is there. The hypothesis will be known as the relational hypothesis. For example, the families with higher income spend more on recreation. Here we have compared that type of families, they having higher income, and their income we compared with their spending over the recreation. Because of these two types of comparison, we know this hypothesis as relational hypothesis. So many times you come to know the name null hypothesis. What the null hypothesis means? Friends, here the word when a hypothesis
TVS feedback
you manner
सर्व्हिसिंग केली
like
मग 10 दिवसानंतर फीडबॅक येईल. बळद झाली आमची गाडी.
हॅलो,
हा सर.
जॉईन होतील, रेडी आहे सर, जॉईन होतील, एकच मिनिट.
असल्यास आपली बँकेची असल्यास बँकेची करू की लगेच.
येस सर, येस सर, नाव यू आर ऑडिबल सर. हाँ रेडी है सर, ऑडिबल. हेलो,
I'm not getting any reply. Hello.
हा सर.
हा, मध्ये आवाज बंद झाला होता का सर?
हा झालता सर.
सर तिकडून कोणीतरी म्यूट करून टाकत आहे वाटतं सर. मला मध्येच आवाज बंद झाल्यासारखं तुम्ही सांगताय ना, तिकडून म्यूट होत आहे सर. सो फ्रेंड,
हाँ सर प्लीज, आवाज येतोय सर, रेडी आहे सर.
ओके सर, ओके सर. Such screen is visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So friends, when the hypothesis stated in a negative manner, when the word like no and not included in your statement, that statement known as the null hypothesis. For example, there is no difference, there is no relationship, there is no significance. These types of word, when used in the hypothesis, then it will known as negative hypothesis or null hypothesis. Generally, we represent the null hypothesis in form of HO or H0. Simple example of null hypothesis can be said as there is no relationship between a family's income and expenditure over recreation. Here the same situation we have presented in a negative manner. Just look out this hypothesis. Families with higher income spend more on recreation. Relational hypothesis. Look out this hypothesis. There is no relationship between a family's income and expenditure on recreation. Here the situation of income and expenditure on recreation we have stated in a negative manner. That's why this type of hypothesis is a negative hypothesis or null hypothesis. Now the next is alternative hypothesis. This type of hypothesis describes the researcher's prediction that there is an exact relationship between the two or variables. This type of hypothesis is nothing but the totally opposite hypothesis to a null hypothesis. The alternative hypothesis may be indicated as HA or H1. A stands for alternative hypothesis. For example, there is definite relationship between the family's income and expenditure on recreation. In the null hypothesis, the hypothesis was there is no relationship between a family's income and expenditure or recreation. And in the alternative hypothesis, the totally opposite hypothesis we have designed that there is definite relationship between family's income and expenditure or recreation. So we can say negative statement means the null hypothesis and positive statement means the alternative hypothesis. Here friends, some functions or role of hypothesis which the hypothesis plays in our research studies. What type of role it performs? Simply we can say the hypothesis gives a definite point for the investigation. Without hypothesis, the investigation may lose its direction and may go here and there without paying attention towards a single direction. So hypothesis guides the researcher. The hypothesis helps to define your data collection. Which type of data collection should be there to complete the study may be guided by the hypothesis. Then the next requirement of hypothesis is to suggest the researcher which type of data analysis technique should be there to make the critical analysis of collected data to get the findings, and at last to contribute the something addition for the development of theories, the development of ideas, abstract and summaries. The hypothesis may help you. So these are some of the role of hypothesis in your research study. So friend, whenever you undertake the research study, simply go to literature review and then design some of the hypotheses based on your ideas. Now friends, the point in front of you may be related to the sample design. Mane sir, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Yes, sir.
actually,
Yes. हाँ,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Here in the research study, the most important part is sample design. So many times we may go in confusion how to define the sample and how to use the sampling technique for the sampling purpose. Friend, first of all, we can't study out all the items, all the universe for a particular study topic. Here, for this study purpose, when we select some part of universe or population known as the sample must be the representative part of your universe. When we take some part from that, it's known as sample, and because of sample, we can pay attention over the particular part very systematically and can find out what exactly is the situation and how the solution can be designed. Here, on the basis of the